Welcome back, guys, to the Big Gay Overalls podcast. Here we are again. I'm a little bit late with my episode this week. I've been elbows deep in a project and doing different things. And apparently now where I live in Australia, we're going to get maybe a cyclone, which is for those on the northern hemisphere like hurricane, but probably a bit smaller. We rarely get them down this far down the coast, but who knows what this week will bring. So I thought Sunday afternoon was a good time to just sit and jump on and have a chat. So I want to talk today about something that I've been rolling around in my brain a bit in the last few days. And I actually wrote a blog post on this very topic. So I thought I would just expand on it, I guess, a bit more in the podcast because that's what it's for. So my thinking my idea is that love, like real, deep, unconditional love, and not just relationship, romantic, can be from family or friends unconditionally. It doesn't just make us feel good, it makes us brave. Because I was thinking about all the things I've been able to achieve with this circle of support around me. And, having someone that I fell in love with initially, and now, I'm married to Sharon, that didn't make me gay. Spoiler alert. I was always gay. Took me a while to realize it, but I was always gay. But the concept of this love, it did make me brave enough to actually live as the gay woman that I am. And I was always meant to be. But it was, that support and that love and that feeling of you can do anything because someone else believed in you, that let me take the steps that I needed to take. And, there's a really long fucking road between, knowing who you are and then having the guts to live as that person. And I had, a very big window, like we're talking nearly 10-year window of traveling that long road from my catalyst to, when I came out to like knowing who I was, but not knowing what the fuck to do with it, what it would look like, anything. Like it just was inconceivable to me. And there's so much fear around that. And I see that with a lot of people that post different things, and that fear will almost keep you stuck in the closet or stuck in the life that you're in because it's just too hard to contemplate the unknown. I mean, sometimes I think about it in the context of like when the first man went on the moon, Neil Armstrong took that step. I mean, he didn't really know that it was all going to be okay when he stepped out of that rocket ship like they thought it might be, but he didn't know. He still had to take those steps onto that surface. Like fear could have kept them just inside going, no, just look from the window, bro. It's cool. And as I've talked about on here a lot, for most of my life, I thought that I was doing all the things I was supposed to. What a good person and a good girl does. I was married to a man, I was running my own business, I was showing up in the world in a way that felt acceptable, but it didn't feel right and it didn't feel good. And it's really interesting. I went and played golf this week. Just got back into golf, if you follow us on the socials. At a club I've been a member at off and on for 25 years. And I played with this lady who, back in the day was a good friend. We probably haven't spoken in 15 years, not because of any bad blood, just because she's not on social media, we're not in each other's lives. But it was like we had just played together the week before, which I love those kind of relationships. And she made a really interesting comment to me because, I had to come out about 15 times that day. And that's cool. It's just what it is. But she made the comment that she goes, you just seem so unbelievably content now and just at peace. Whereas before, you're always fighting something. And I was always, and then I thought about it and I was like, fighting against authority at the golf club and fighting against authority at work and fighting here and fighting there. Like everything was always a fight for something. And that's because nothing felt right within me. So I was looking for these external things. Well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's here. And I was always fighting to fit in. And underneath all of that stuff, that fight and the bluster and the whole, I'm going to be this person, I was carrying this big, terrifying truth that I was in fact gay. And even then, at that time when I was going through that stuff, I didn't know that then consciously. I mean, I knew it, my soul knew it, but I hadn't tapped into that yet. I didn't know it. And I had known it, but I didn't know it. Are you confused yet? Are you still here? That's good. But, I'd built a whole life around something else. And the idea of tearing down that life for something completely unknown or starting over, of letting people see the real me, which was terrifying, after spending, decades crafting this version of me that felt safe. It was terrifying. And that's why it took me 10 years to do something. And it was only that I had felt compelled that I couldn't not experience a life with Sharon, just through the love that she'd given me in that short time, to make the changes and to take the step. Like, I couldn't have done it. And that's why I sat there for 10 years, because I couldn't see it. And it wasn't that I didn't think I could survive it, although I think there is some of that. I mean, I knew I would somehow. I'm pretty resilient, independent little bugger. Like, I've got through some pretty hard shit in my time. But I wasn't sure if I'd be loved on the other side of it. And again, I'm talking about love as a whole, not just romantic. And, would I lose people? Would people hate me? Would people turn against me? Would I disappoint them? Would I become too much? And then, here's the kicker. When I finally did start to embrace it in teeny tiny steps at first, embrace myself and started that whole process of like coming out, I realized something that I hadn't really expected, which is love, the real, genuine, from your soul love that you feel for another human. It doesn't go anywhere. And spoiler alert, it has to come from you first before you can actually receive anything from anyone else's. That was something that stopped me in my tracks. And, the people who really loved me at that time didn't love the version of me I'd been performing. They just loved me as I presented in that moment. And then when I presented as something else in the next moment, that's cool. We accept you too. Like that. That's cool. We love you for you, whatever that looks like. And I think for me, the moment I let go of that fear of disappointing others and uprooting their lives and turning everyone's life upside down, I realized how much I had been disappointing myself. And because it's interesting that the thing that stopped me is like, oh, will I disappoint people? And, would I become too much and would I lose people? But I had been slowly losing myself, and I disappointed myself, even though I never stopped long enough to let myself contemplate that or feel that. And, coming out was clearly the biggest, scariest thing that I did at that time. And ending a marriage and, embarking on a new relationship where, like with Sharon, as we've talked about, like I've been completely open and vulnerable and just doing, talking about things that I'd never really talked about before, and like being able to feel my feelings. So that was big and it was scary, but I had felt like I had this safety, like my circle around me of people who were there and wanted to see me just be happy for no other reason than they love me. So then if we fast forward to then starting like this podcast, it didn't start because I woke up one day and thought, you know what I love to do? I'm going to put my whole personal journey on blast for the entire internet to see on repeat. That did not happen. I started the podcast because I knew how lonely it felt to be figuring all of this out. And, I've talked about how the podcast originated. My business coach at the time was like, someone out there is where you were and they need to see some crumbs on the path to know a way forward. Like someone needs your story. And I wanted to create the kind of space that I wish I'd had when I was coming out late in life, because swear to God, thought I was the only one this has ever happened to. Spoiler alert, there are many of us out there and the numbers are growing, but I didn't think that this was a thing until once I took the step and came out and then started searching late in life lesbian on Facebook and then found all these groups. And you're like, oh my God, there are like gazillions of us. And we all struggle with similar things. Our journeys might look different. And I know, like, from people I've had on the podcast, our stories are different, but they're the same. You know, we're all going through this questioning and this, am I, and is this right? And how do I? And it's just this whole myriad. So I want to create a space that I get, or a resource I wish I'd had. And not, disclaimer, I'm not the font of all knowledge here. I do not know everything, but all I can talk about is my journey and my perspective. And here's the thing, I almost didn't do it. I had so many doubts about it, like, what if nobody listens? And that one, it doesn't matter. Like, even if one person listened, that's okay. I didn't create this to, be the next Brene Brown. That's not what I did, but I just wanted to put it out there. But still, like, part of your ego goes, well, what if nobody listens? Or what if people listen and they think I'm ridiculous? Or what if I run out of things to say? Which some weeks I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, and I don't want to fabricate something just for the sake of putting something out there. So sometimes there'll be a bigger cadence between episodes. And this is a big one that every time I hit publish, still, like, what if I say something that comes back to bite me on the ass? Someone from my former life hears something and they're like, you dirty dog, you're a shitbag human. And like, that stuff, it's a very busy place in my head some days, kids. So, I still have all of these thoughts. No secret there. I've been very open on this podcast and on my various channels about those things. But, but love, the kind I get from my wife, the kind from my friends, and also from this big gay overalls community, reminds me that even if I stumble through an episode or I don't speak my words well or whatever, it actually doesn't matter. Because by me showing up imperfectly, being vulnerable, being honest is always better than staying silent. And if one person hears one thing and it makes their day a little bit better, then fuck yeah, I'm down for that. I'm going to keep putting these out, even if it is a 5-minute episode one day just to check in. Because when I get, emails or DMs or comments from people about the episodes and how they found something insightful or helpful, or, oh my God, yes, like, that made me pushing through that discomfort so much better. Like, it's so much worthwhile. And, this podcast has connected me with so many amazing people. Like, I've had some people on as guests that I would never have spoken to, and they're amazing humans, and we're now friends. Like, that's just amazing. And more so than that is just the people who've reached out to me and said, Lisa, your story makes me feel less alone. Fuck yeah. Like, that's it, tick. Like, that's all I'm doing it for. And that makes it worth every tiny moment of doubt. So let's talk about another little adventure in fear, which has been writing a book. Now, I'm actually writing 2 books. One is my autobiography, but that's a bit of a slow burner because sometimes I dig into it and sometimes I just need to step back from that bad boy. But I started writing a book which was just going to be, just a short 20-page ebook, a little bit of self-help, bit of authenticity, and it's turned into like this manuscript now. And when I started working on Burn the Script, spoiler alert, that's the name, I wasn't thinking, oh, this will be an easy peasy breezy process. Well, I did. I thought it would just be a simple ebook with some concepts and some tools and, put it on Kindle for 99 cents and away we go. But now I'm digging into it and I'm like, who the fuck do I think I am to be writing a book? And who am I to be calling out all the bullshit we're being fed about life, success, identity, and self-worth? And what if people disagree? What if they come for me? What if I accidentally sound like an angsty teenager with a grudge against the world? Or just a crotchety old woman that's, curmudgeony and cranky and everything. Like all of those things, because I have woven into the book some of my personal stories and my experiences, because, this is a process that on reflection that I went through in learning how to write my own story, not just follow the rules and follow the script. And putting this book together was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Not as hard as coming out, but hard. And not because I didn't know what I wanted to say. I mean, it did grow as I dug deeper and deeper, and it just turned into this thing. Like I knew what I wanted it to say, what the point was, but actually saying it, actually putting it on paper, and then in black and white, and then so people can see it, challenge it and respond to it. And, I've sent it out to some people for like, can you just read this to see if I'm just full of shit or whether it makes sense to you? And, it's terrifying. Every single time I'm like, someone's going to go like, who do you think you are? You're not Brene Brown. You're not Mel Robbins. You're not Tony Robbins. You're not all the Robbinses today. You know, and it just, ugh. But again, that whole concept, like when I sit in that uncomfortable feeling and I let myself feel that, love, that made me brave, because I get the love from my amazing wife, who has reminded me over and over and over again that I've got a story worth telling. I tell her she's biased, but I have the love from my friends and unconditional love from, some extended family that, you know, who've said they just read literally the about the author page, and they're like, you've been through so much. People need to hear how you came out the other side, and can't wait to read more. And also the love from this wider community, from people who are also sick of living by someone else's rules and going, but I don't know how to stop. I don't know what to do. How'd you do it? So you know what? I've essentially finished the book. I still haven't hit publish. That's the kicker. And I'm still figuring out the best way to do that. But it's, I could poke at it and change it for years and it'll just stay on my computer. But I don't think that that's the right thing for it. The other thing that I embarked on was, I've built a whole business now around authenticity coaching. And talk about imposter syndrome, much over here, big jacket on now, 100% all the time. Because you'd think after coming out and starting a podcast and like the book's in progress, I'd be done with fear. But no, that's a clingy little bastard that just wraps around you like shit to a blanket, let me tell you. I've spent I've probably leaned into it really hard in the last 6 months. So let's say that, building a business around like authenticity, like, because I have experienced the power that comes when you can embrace that, even in teeny tiny ways, not like upending your whole life. Like, individual results may vary, like, and getting to help people navigate, like, to embrace who they really are rather than who they were told to be. And let me tell you for free, that comes with a whole other level of doubt. Like, the fuck am I doing? Because every day my brain loves to whisper, what if no one cares? What if I fail? What if I get it all wrong? Like, who am I to be an expert? And I am not an expert. But if I can look at the lessons that I've navigated and some of those can help other people, great. And because here's what I've learned on this process, because I feel like since I started this process about 4.5 years ago now, of, becoming who I'm meant to be, or I don't even know if this is who I'm meant to be. But I feel like I've been a sponge and I'm always like just pulling lessons out of things. And I have learnt that I can be terrified and still do the thing anyway. I never thought I'd be able to exit the gym I ran because that was my whole being. Well, guess what? I did it and it was okay. Nobody hated me. People were a bit unhappy and sad and a whole heap of other emotions, but you know, nobody hated me. Um, I can be unsure and still take the next step, even if I don't know what the next step is, just a teeny tiny movement forward. Like it's that's okay. Like, and I can feel incredible doubt and fear and all of these things, and I can still make an impact. Like I said, like one person listens to this, and today feels like a bit of a brain dump and ramble, but maybe someone will get a little something from this and decide to do something, and that'd be great. And that love, the kind that doesn't require you to prove your worth, it makes everything possible because I'm like, at the end of the day, if everything else falls apart, I've still got this to come back to, or I've still got these people who will pick me up and help push me on to the next thing if this is not the thing. So, I'd love to sit here and tell you that I have conquered all my fears and that I never struggle with any self doubt, but that would be a big fat old lie because I have it constantly. And Sharon is super vigilant at picking me up when I say something like, and, I'll do the same to her, but she is like far more on top of some of these things than I am. And, fear is still there. It sneaks up on me when I'm like writing or I'm thinking or I'm going to speak, or even before I do a client call, I have that moment like, who am I to do this? But having that love in my life, that's what just keeps pulling me forward because I lean into that. And it's like a cyclist drafting behind somebody else. Like you just get pulled along. And it reminds me that I don't have to be fearless. I just have to be me. And I just have to use that love as a fuel to keep going. And, that's what you need to do as well. And I know that, you know, um, if you're standing on the edge of something scary, like whether it's coming out, I've just helped a client come through, you know, working out their foundation of authenticity, who they are, what their values are, all of the structures they need to put in place so that they could lessen their anxiety around coming out to their husband, which they did, and they could do it very calmly, and it was a great conversation. It was positive for everyone. Like, yes, there's going to be bumps in the road, but because I could help her smooth that path, that became a way less daunting exercise. She doesn't know what the next step is. He doesn't know what the next step is. They're just going to navigate it. But she's taken the first step. So I guess from my perspective, if you're standing on the edge of something scary, like whether you're coming out or you're starting over or you're just admitting to yourself that you meant for more than what you're currently doing, it like you're in something that doesn't fit, just let this episode be your reminder. You don't have to be fearless. You just need enough love to take the next step. And if you need to borrow some, got it in spades, consider it yours. Because you don't have to, like, people will sit there and someone will say, well, this episode doesn't apply to me. I don't have anyone who loves me like you have, Sharon, or friends, or I'm alone. But like I said at the start, this has to start with you because I had to learn that too. And even if you feel like you've got no one else, if you've got that you deserve more and you can do more and you want more, like that's the I don't know, the meat and potatoes, I guess, that's gonna the fuel, there you go, that's gonna take you forward. Like that's you've even if that's all you've got, and I guarantee you that you've got more than that. You can dig in and be all you can be, even just back yourself and give yourself that love that you would want to do. And I just feel like that you can, you know, you can have everything that you want to be. So we have to be our own first source of love, even when it feels impossible. And, again, if you're sitting listening and thinking this and going, well, Lisa, woohoo, that's great for you, but I don't have that kind of support. And if that's where you are, I see you. I get it, because I felt that too. And I didn't always have it. But sometimes we have to go and find our people and reach out and make that connection. And sometimes we have to trust that the right people will meet us when we step out into that scary thing. Like, some people who I wasn't sure about, they have been my biggest advocates and supporters, biggest in this. And, I gave them the opportunity to be able to love me by me being authentically me. And, so even when it feels impossible, we have to come back to ourselves, but we also have to give other people the opportunity to give us that gift. And it doesn't ask you if it's real love, it won't ask you to shrink or to hide or to stay hidden. There's no I love you if, there's no anything like that. It's just pure love. And it makes us brave enough to do anything that we never thought we could do. So I don't really know if this has made any sense. Usually I get to the end of these, I go, oh, I don't know if this has made sense. But yeah, it's just something I've been thinking on for the last, as I'm grappling with fears and doubts and, breathing something life in the world. Like big gay overalls was terrifying to start. And still today, when I edit this and I hit publish, I'm going to be a little bit like, eh. But it just has to be. I just feel compelled to do it. And the other stuff. So I've still got to work through it. I'm still doing the work right here alongside you guys. So anywho, I'll wrap this one up. And if I don't get washed away, I'll see you next week. And take care of you and be your biggest cheerleader is my best advice today. Not that I give advice. Advice sucks. Go be you.